Okay, since it is the top of the hour, we can go ahead and get started. Thank you everybody for joining us again for another webinar. So today's topic is on attendance options. That's going to be for both the group and individual levels. So we do have some new features for you that I think is going to be really helpful. But then I'm also going to cover some existing features and maybe explain a few that you might have heard of, but you don't really know how to use it or what it can be used for. So today's going to be a little bit of new stuff, but then a lot of review of existing features that could hopefully help you when you're doing attendance with your clients. Okay. So we should be seeing my screen here. The first thing I want to cover is individual attendance. So this is, when I say individual, I mean anything that is not considered a group. So one-on-one sessions, it could be an intake appointment or an evaluation. So anything that is not done in a group setting, we refer to as individual check-in. So that can be done by going directly to the client's profile. I'll pull up my client here. So I'm going to check him in for his individual counseling. I want to note, because I get this question quite often, why is it highlighted in green? Why is the level 2 track D group highlighted in green? That just means that he is scheduled to come in for that group today. If it was an individual appointment that was made on the calendar, that would, if it was for today, that would also be green. So I'm going to go to my session log for the individual counseling. And then I just adjust my date and time. October 5th, I'm going to make it for, let's say, 10 o'clock this morning is when I saw him. Now, the way we track attendance in the system is with the money. So whether the client is self-pay or covered by insurance or voucher funding, we want to enter what that we're receiving for that session. So I know this guy is insurance, so I could just enter a client payment of 0, unless he has a copay. If he's not Medicaid, if he has a copay, and let's say it's $20, I just enter the copay if he paid me. And I'm just going to click the green plus, and it's going to add the session. That's pretty standard. Most of you are probably used to that. There we go. There's our session. Another way I could get to this page, if I'm looking at my calendar, and let's see, where's his appointment? Okay, so it's over here. You can click on the calendar appointment. That same icon, the session log, is hovering right here, so I can click that, and it'll take me to the session log where I can check him in like I just did. One thing I want to note while we're on this screen, because I don't think we can mention it enough, is you are able to note whether or not this appointment is a telehealth service. So on the appointment, when you're setting that up, there's a checkbox for telehealth. So you just check that box, and this is for, again, individual sessions. Anything that's not considered a group, there's going to be another spot for the group to note whether or not it was telehealth, and we'll take a look at that. So I click that icon, it brings me back here to my session log. can see here is the session that I just entered a few minutes ago. All right, so a brand new function, which we're really excited to roll out, is the ability to check a client in for multiple sessions in a single day. So, and I should mention multiple sessions in a day, you know, that's not the OBH standard. So just make sure you guys are in compliance with your state standards. But we have opened it up. You are able to check the client in for more than one session in a single day. Up until now, they would only be able to be checked in for a single session per day. So the way around that, just a little background, because some of you are probably doing this now. If the client was doing multiple individual sessions in a day, you would have to add the individual counseling service line a second time, and you check them in one on each of those. That was the way around it. You no longer have to do that. You can just keep the single service line. So there's my first one. So October 5th, I've already checked him in for one session, but let's say he's doing two because he's making up for something. So I checked him in at 10 a.m. Now I'm checking him in for 11 a.m. And there we go. So there's both my sessions. This is, in theory, this could be unlimited. You can check them in for a third. So we've opened that up, and hopefully that makes checking in your clients a little easier, especially as we get into winter and the holiday season. You know, they're going to be making up sessions that they can attend, or they know they're not going to be able to attend. So hopefully this helps things run a little smoother. I know today's webinar is not specifically about notes, but I do want to show you if I click on my note icon. So I checked him in 3 times, so now all 3 notes are showing up here for me to write. It's my 10 a.m., my 11 a.m., and my 12 p.m. So all 3 are there now. There is a little bit of setup that needs to be done on a treatment in order to allow the multiple sessions in a day. So if you go to treats and groups and treatments, you can pull up your list of services that you offer. Right here is my individual counseling. So I click the pencil on the left. So 2 things need to happen in order for me to check the client in more than one time in a day. The attendance frequency needs to be at once a random. And then times per day needs to be set to 0. And that's it. So if those 2 things are set, you'll be able to check them in multiple times in a day. I should mention, though, that is for only things, again, that are considered individual, not in groups. We have some other functions for groups that I will cover now. So my group check-in, treats and groups, as most of you probably know. I'll find my group. We'll just say it's already 3 p.m. I click on my green check mark. And now I can check my group in all at once. So again, we're going to enter with the payment, whether it's voucher funding or insurance or self-pay. For those of you who don't know, this client's line item is in green. That means he has voucher funding available to him. So probation is covering the cost of his session. I can click on the copay here, and it's going to enter in whatever probation or parole is covering for that session. So now I know they're covering 15, client is responsible for 15, and let's say I collected that. You'll notice that some of the clients have an umbrella on the left next to their, or near their name. That just indicates that they have insurance that's covering that session. So if they have a copay, it should say it right there. If it says 0, that just means that insurance is covering the full cost. Now this guy who doesn't have vouchers, he doesn't have an umbrella, so he's not insurance, he's just self-pay. This is what he pays per session. If he paid the full cost of the session, that's what I enter. If he only paid me, let's say, $10 of it, that's what I enter. Or if he paid me nothing at all, I enter a 0. If they showed up, if there was a butt in the chair, you want something to be in that client payment column. Because like this client at the bottom, if I leave him blank, this group is set to be a Monday group, so it occurs every Monday. If I leave his line item blank, I don't do anything, the system's going to see that tonight at 11 o'clock, and it's going to auto-generate a no-show. Although, if you want to jump the gun, you can enter the no-show manually under the attendance code with an NS. Another option when you're checking clients in is this drop down here for pay. So you can change how they paid. So the $ is cash, CC is credit card, CK is check, ET is electronic transfer, and BD is bad debt. The BD is most often used if you're writing off a client balance that you just know you're never going to receive. And click submit. So I do always recommend when you're checking in a group, especially a larger group, you'll want to maybe enter 1 or 2 clients and then click submit, enter the next 2 clients and then click submit, just so you know that it saves. It's been known to happen where somebody will enter in the payments for the entire group, and then they'll click submit, but in the time between the entering the payment and clicking submit, they lost internet. So when they click submit, nothing actually saved, and they walked away thinking they were good, but the payments didn't save, so the attendance wasn't logged, and everybody got a no-show. So just to be safe, enter 1 or 2 and then click submit and then keep going. So that is traditional group check-in. You can see everybody now has this printer icon over here. That's for a receipt, so you can print out receipts for your clients, or you can print the whole group at once. You'll notice up here a drop-down with the primary counselor shows up. So let's say somebody is covering this group today, like I'm covering for another counselor. I just change it to me and I click submit. Now I will be responsible for those notes, and I'll get the reminders if they're not written within the time frame. So that's straightforward group check-in. It's pretty simple. That's if everything goes according to plan. But as you all know, that is rarely the case. You have clients who want to attend a different group because they're not going to be able to attend their group later in the week, or maybe they missed last week, so they want to make up for it. So we have options. We have a couple of different options that I'm going to run through really quick. Those options include an equivalent group, which is basically a makeup group, a double group, and an extra group. So I'm going to explain the difference between all of them. So an equivalent group or a makeup group is exactly what I just explained. Somebody is not able to attend a group coming up this week, or maybe they missed last week. So now they need to, they're attending a different group to make up for it. So above the roster here, I have a temporarily add client to group. Brings up this window and I could search for my client. So Daisy here, who is, you can see she's not normally in this group. This dropdown is going to show up, ask me which group am I crediting. So she normally attends a Friday 3 p.m. relapse prevention. So I select that. The window is going to change. So the absolute most important piece when you are checking somebody in for a makeup group, it's this field right here, the assigned group meeting date. This is the date that the client is making up for. So they're attending today on October 5th. We just have to tell the system now, is she making up for last Friday? Is she making up for this coming up Friday? Or even further back. So maybe she's making up for September 25th. You'll notice the dates that are in red here, those are dates that she has a no-show for. So hopefully it helps narrow down the date that she's actually making up for. So you just select the date. It's going to ask you if there's a no-show in the field. Do you want to overwrite it? You'll just click OK. I do want to explain though. So depending where you're at in the week, the system is going to do its best guess. So if, let's say this was a Wednesday group that she is actually attending, and she was making up for Friday, October 2nd, it's pretty close to Friday, October 9th. The system's going to assume that that's the date she's making up for. So you have to be careful, because if you don't select the right date, when you go to do your check-in on Friday, October 9th, it's going to tell you, hey, she already has a session for this day. She attended it earlier in the week. I get questions about this all the time where somebody didn't enter the right meeting date. So just make sure to pay attention to that. And then just like before, we'll enter client payments. So it adds her to the roster for today only. It puts this little disclaimer on there saying she didn't attend last Friday, she attended today to make up for it. So that's a makeup group that has been, that feature has been around for a long time. But in recent years, we've, in talking with all of you, it became aware, like it came to our knowledge that you guys needed a few other options, especially because, especially in the sex offender treatment population, where clients attend much more frequently. They're doing a lot of different things. Doing a straightforward makeup group like that doesn't always work. So there are two other options that you're able to do. One is a double group, which applies to everybody, not just the sex offender population. So a double group occurs when, like with the holidays coming up, let's say it's almost Christmas and it's the week before, and then the following week, the group that would have been held falls on, let's say Christmas Eve or even New Year's Eve. So you're not holding group that day because of the holiday. So you're allowing your clients to attend their regular group, and then right after it do a double group, do another group to make up for both weeks. So it has to be set up on the treatments. But I'm going to go to change dates. And I should mention that the group has to be checked in first, like the first group has to be fully checked in. So we did this one, that's great. And I'm going to change my date. I'm going to leave it as October 5th. Very important piece here, I have to select the time that the second group is occurring. So let's say the second group is occurring later at 5 p.m. Right here, I want to check my bubble for second group. Now, again, I have to tell the system what date they're making up for. So I'm going to say they're not coming next Monday, the 12th. Instead, they're doing 2 groups today, the 5th. If the date that they're making up for is in the past, you want to click this to overwrite any missed sessions, any no-shows that got automatically entered. If it's for in the future, it shouldn't be a problem. Click go. All right, so that opens my roster back up. And then I can check my clients in for a second time on today for a double group. Check them in really quick. Perfect. You'll notice that each one gets that little disclaimer now that they're not attending their regular group on the 12th. Instead, they did a double group on October 5th. So the last option for group check-in, it comes, well, it's called an extra group. So let me go here. Just jump ahead a week. Okay, and I'm going to check my client in for a session. So now he's doing an extra group. And again, I'm going to go to temporarily add client to this group. Actually, I'm going to do a different client here. So an extra group is pretty simple. It's the same as doing a makeup group. This window pops up, but I'm just going to check the bubble here for extra group. So you'll notice when I do that, the assigned group meeting date blurs out, so I'm not able to actually enter anything. So when you would use this is, I've seen it primarily used in the sex offender treatment population where they're making up for a group, but they could be making up for a group that occurred on a different treatment like a month ago. We don't really know what date we're crediting. We just know he's doing an extra group because he missed one sometime in the past. So that's another option you could use. It's kind of a last resort, a Hail Mary, if you don't know the date that he's making up for. So those are the options for group check-in. There are settings that need to be they need to be changed on the treatment level. So I'm going to go back to my treats and groups and treatments. And let's just use the level 2 track D as an example. So a couple options that I could change here. Can attend equivalent groups. That just means if they can do a makeup group. That was the first example I showed you. You notice that if you do say they can attend a makeup group, we do delay reporting of the no-show to the probation officer by 6 days. Essentially, we give them the week to, if they get a no-show, we give them the week to be able to attend a makeup group before letting their probation officer know they missed. Next option is double sessions are allowed. So if that is something you want to allow them to do, especially as the holidays come around, just set that to yes. Okay. There's a couple other options on here that I want to point out. There's this one, the group length, the duration that the group meets for, that must match. And so that can be a yes or no option. And the same with the group frequency must match. That's a yes or no option. Where I see this being used is, let's say you have your regular once a week relapse prevention group. It occurs every Monday, but you also have kind of a step down program. So maybe a client who is doing well, he's progressed through treatment. Now he's attending only once a month as kind of just a refresher to keep on track with his goals. So if you have a relapse prevention treatment that meets only once a month, that client can attend the group that meets every week, but he's not going to get the weekly no-show. The system will wait until the end of the month to see if he attended at least once in that month. If he did, it's good. Nothing needs to be done. If he didn't attend at least once in that month, the system will auto-generate a no-show, which will then be reported to his probation officer. I see this commonly used for like domestic violence programs with the level B second contact, where they only attend once a month to fulfill that second contact. And then there's this option, can float between groups. That just means any group, if I said that clients who are enrolled in the level 2 track D, if they can float between groups, that just means I'm able to assign them to any group that I have in the system, as long as this is set to yes. I mentioned that I was going to show you the telehealth options for the group setup. So on your group setup, you can go to the magnifying glass icon. And on the following page, you want to edit group parameters. So you can put a telehealth link right here. So that could be a Zoom link or whatever service you are using. You could put the link to the group there. On the individual appointments, you are able to enter a counselor's link to telehealth sessions. So if you go to user info users, you can pull up the counselor name. And all the way at the bottom of their setup is an option for a telehealth link. So if the counselor has a designated virtual room where they meet clients one-on-one for those services, you can put the link there. And then if on the calendar appointment, like I showed you, you can check that box for telehealth. If the client is set up to receive appointment reminders instead of a company address for where they're supposed to meet you, it'll say telehealth, and it'll have the link. Same for the group. If a client is set up to receive appointment reminders and the group has the telehealth link on it, that reminder will also have the link instead of a physical location. All right, a couple other things, and then I'll open it up for questions, especially as the holidays are coming up. Treats in groups and group blackout dates. This is very useful. I like to I don't think I can remind people enough about this option. So as holidays are occurring and you're canceling groups. So there you go. So I just canceled all my groups that would normally occur on Halloween. So nobody's expected to show up. Nobody will get a no-show. And if they are set up to receive appointment reminders, they will not get the appointment reminder. This does need to happen per office. So if you have multiple locations and you're canceling groups across all of them, you'll need to do it for each. Another just kind of honorable mention, you can send a customized reminder message to your clients under client info, send reminders. So the clients do need to be enabled to receive reminders. So you'll notice for my Friday 3 p.m. relapse prevention group, only 2 out of 12 clients are enabled to get those reminders. And if I click select group, it shows me which ones and whether they're enabled for text message or email or both. So you can add multiple groups to this. So if something comes up and you're canceling all groups because of like snow or something, you can compose a little message. At the bottom, you click send. With this, another relatively new function that came out due to the COVID pandemic, this option right here to send a custom message to all clients at once. So any client who is unable to receive a reminder would get it. You can see there's 16 of them, and you can compose that message. The last thing I want to show you, and I do have to apologize that because none of you have this feature at the moment on your site. We are still testing it out to make sure everything works correctly, but you should see it here shortly. On the clients page, you'll note that you have an envelope icon, and some of you may have already been using this. If you select 2, the new function now, you are able to email the client. So this bottom piece wasn't here before. Before, you were only able to email a client's supervisor, like a PO or probation. And then you could always add in an email, like you could add in the client's email, but you had to type it out each time. Now you don't have to. So if the client has their email on file, it'll show up right here, and you can just click this to email them directly. Like I said, that's not on any of your sites at the moment, but it should be shortly within the next week or 2. All right, so that is everything I had to show you. I will open it up to questions now. If you want to unmute yourself on your computer, you can do that. Or as always, you can send a message in the chat for Zoom. And you can ask questions about anything, anything I just showed you, or really anything else in the system.
Mike?
Yeah, hi Cindy.
We have a client who is having their account paid by a benefactor. And the benefactor has set a dollar amount that they're willing to cover. Can we enter that as if it were a voucher, or how is the best way to keep track of what our balance we don't want to go over whatever their set amount was, and I don't know for sure how to keep track of that as a running balance.
Yeah, absolutely. You hit the nail on the head. The best way that I would recommend to do that is with a voucher. So you go to the client's page and the yellow legal pad icon.
Okay.
Sorry, it's going a little slow. We have a slow internet here today. So you can add a new voucher. The thing with that is, though, it is asking you to select who issued it. So this is going to be all your referral sources. You could select private if you wanted, or you can create an organization for the benefactor. But then you just put in how much they're covering for the client. If they've given you a specific window that they're able to use it for, you can enter that. So maybe they're saying now between the end of the year. And then you can even apply it to the services that they're going to cover. So if they're only going to cover, let's say, individual sessions, you just select that. And then the max payment per session, let's say you charge $50 for an individual session, and they said, I'm going to cover half of it. I'm going to cover $25, and the client is going to cover the other 25. So you enter that here. So each time you check the client in, only 25 will be charged against their initial amount, and the client will be responsible for the other 25.
Okay, well, I'm going to make it just a little more complicated then. Where it's going to be individual each for a man and his wife. So they're still paid by the same benefactor, but the total amount is still going to include both husband and wife's total.
Okay.
I don't know whether I think it's going to be more heavily weighted towards one than the other.
Sure.
So I'm not sure how to figure the dollar amount for the initial voucher.
So does the husband and wife, do they have separate accounts in the system?
They do, but I wouldn't necessarily have to, I guess.
It's up to you. I personally think that it's good to keep them separate just
Right.
for confidentiality reasons.
Right.
But yeah, if the benefactor said, $1,000, but it's going to be a little heavier towards the husband's side, you can enter like 600 on his, 400 on the wife's.
Okay.
The thing with that, Cindy, though, you are going to be able to change it. So if it comes down to it, the wife is doing well, but the husband still needs some extra, you can change it on each of them. So you just click the pencil icon and you can change that initial amount.
Even though we've already applied some money to that voucher.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, no problem. Other questions? All right. Doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of questions. So I hope everybody found this webinar helpful. And yeah, I hope you can use the new features. And we'll be doing another webinar next month. I'm not sure what the topic on that one is yet, but keep an eye out on your emails for the next webinar, which will take place on November 2nd. So the first Monday of November is November 2nd. That will be the next webinar. So thank you everybody for joining us, and we'll see you next time.